Hello, and welcome back to the Normal Onion's first week gameplay in Vanilla Zomboid. Here we are on day 2. Continuing from the last video, I get into a week 1 morning routine of refilling my water bottle, marking my map with locations of interest, taking inventory of what I have, and also taking advantage of one of the most underrated mechanics in the game, writing notes. Personally, this helps me to keep track of things as I go through the week, and I think it's just neat that the game lets you do this. After life and living, I head towards the direction that I saw the Jeep on the first day and soon realize that the house is actually what's called a survivor home. Generally, these are randomly boarded up buildings that usually contain some pretty amazing loot. After disposing of the hoard, I find a stylish yellow hard hat to comply with OSHA standards and to complete Orville's construction worker look. I check out the Jeep real quick, scout out the entrances, and eventually head in to make myself cozy. On one of the bookshelves, I find a key to the Jeep outside, nearly get munched on by 2 zombies piling in through the upstairs door, and behind them is a considerable cache of pew-pew sticks and sharp sticks. Amongst the sharp sticks, I find a wood axe, which I'll need to get logs to saw into planks so that I can barricade my current living arrangement. I also find a hockey mask in this house, which for some reason fills me with an urge to find camping cabins by a lake. I start to load up the Jeep with my newfound toys, only to be met with another problem. There is no gas in the tank. Because of this, I go to search for a gas can, and in my focus I entirely miss the duffel bag in the bed of a truck just down the road. Nice. As the time drew closer to noon, I decided to raid the house across the street. I annihilate the fish that they had in the oven, check the upstairs rooms for anything of use, and grab some snacks from the kitchen before Tool Time Tom tells me how to summon the Kool-Aid Man. While Life and Living plays, I jot down some more notes and mark off what I've found so far. After the man on the TV flexes his bronze god physique, I make my way to another house where I find a banged up crowbar, some antidepressants, and vitamin gummies to help stave off sleepiness. Further down the road, I check the wrecked cars for an empty gas can in the back of one and completely demolish a pot of stew. There isn't much to see in the house just by the car wrecks, but the addition of more nails is always welcome. In the next house, I find one of the many skill VHS tapes that you can watch for experience and applicable skills as long as you have a TV with running power. Back towards the medical building, I check the cars there to see if I can siphon gas out of any of them to feed the Jeep back at the survivor house, which I managed to score a full can of gas. Conveniently, it was also close to the time for Life and Living's 6 PM showing where Dean talks about farming. I jot down more notes, load up some more loot in the passenger seat, and take it back to my current residence. As the engine roars down the street, more nosy neighbors show up to check out my sweet new ride. Unfortunately, this came at the cost of breaking my as seen on TV griddle pan in the scuffle, and I immediately regret not calling in fast enough to double the offer before the whole zombie apocalypse thing happened. After disposing of the last zombie in the vicinity, I get his garments into such a twist they turn into improvised ropes. Fill up any water containers I do have, and quality test this shiny new axe. Weighing in at 9 units of weight per log, these things are extremely heavy. There is, however, a way to make transporting them easier by using 2 ropes. You can tie up to 4 logs into a bundle, which dramatically reduces their weight, and in turn, makes it easier to carry around. I returned home with logs in tow, and saw them into planks that I'm going to use to barricade my windows. To do this, you'll need nails and planks in your inventory, right-click on the window, and just hit the barricade option, and you can put up to 4 planks on each side. While putting 4 planks on each side would be a solid defense, I personally prefer being able to see out of the side where I normally enter or exit from, so I settle for leaving 2 planks on each side of the windows at the front of the house. After finishing up my barricades, I head upstairs to one of the bedrooms, and due to the fact that I don't really have any study material to read, I take this time to jot down more notes and objectives. Train my reloading skill a little with an M14 magazine that I found earlier, and mark some parts of my map until roughly 1 AM. Starting day 3 off at 5:30 in the morning, I head downstairs for my morning routine, do a little more map review, set some new objectives for myself, and do a little more reloading training as the cook show plays in the background. After offloading the Jeep, I made my way towards the pickup truck where I nearly baptized my bumper with a love tap and claimed the devious duffel bag that hid in plain sight for 2 days. Inside of a nearby tool shed, there's some more empty gas cans, and I trip my first alarm. I retreat back to the Jeep, and rather than stay and fight a potentially larger horde, I park myself some ways away from the house alarm in the direction that I know is relatively clear and wait. As soon as the alarm died down, I went back to check the house, only to see some kind of block party heading around the side. Now, rather than ruin the surprise party by getting there before they get into positions, I stall for time by checking the neighboring house and get myself an electrical skill book, some more vitamins, and proceed to raid their kitchen. Thinking that enough time has passed, I go to the surprise block party and get ready to meet some lovely strangers. Much like real life, however, I skip out of the party early to watch a big burly dude work with power tools. Afterwards, I headed back to the party house, which unfortunately didn't have too much going for it, but at least one of the party goers checking out my car had some beta blockers, which will help me out down the line when the hordes get larger and my ammo stash is in need of clearing out. Going down the street a short ways is another little neighborhood that had yet another house alarm for me. At the very least, though, I caught a glimpse of another survivor house in that direction, and rather than fight my way to it, I marked it out on the map, and went back towards the medical building. I siphoned more gas off of the nearby vehicles, fill up the Jeep a little, then went into the grocery store to scarf down a tub or 2 of ice cream to forget about the 2 house alarms I had on this day. Hey, post-editing onion here. There's a survivor house here, by the way. As it's nearing 6 PM, I offload some items, refill my water, and it's notebook update time with some new self-made objectives. After another fishing episode of Exposure Survival, I decided to check out the area around the northern survivor house and maybe clear it out a bit. Now, while I did clear out the area, it dawned on me that I have nothing to pry off the barricades with. After that slightly embarrassing moment, I settled for checking the houses around the neighborhood, and claimed a consolation prize in the form of one of the 3 auto maintenance manuals that would allow me to repair vehicles as soon as I had the level for it. I head back home, but not in shame nor failure, for it is only truly failure if you learn nothing from your mistakes. And learn I did. For the first order of business was to put a claw hammer into my duffel bag. I then spent the rest of the night and early morning reading Electrical Volume 1. If I finish this book, it will help me get the requirement of 1 point in electrical skill to hotwire cars with. The second requirement after that, if you didn't start as burglar, is to have 2 levels of mechanics. As the clock hit 1 AM, Orville hit the hay, and we're moving on to day 4. Oh, just real quick in case you're wondering why I wait so late to sleep, is due to the wakeful trait. If you didn't pick wakeful and you have a digital watch or alarm clock nearby, you can actually set an alarm on it with the right-click context menu. This means it might cut your sleep short, but if you wanted that early game life and living experience, it might be worth looking into. Anyways, back to day 4. Starting out with my usual morning routine things, filling up the water containers, depositing items, doing a bit of reading while the cook show plays, and a little mental inventorying. I head out towards the northern survivor house first, as I know it should still be mostly cleared out. With the key to the city in hand, I survey the house only to hear one of the barricades being close to breaking. While I waited for the barricade to break, one of the zombies nearby went right next to the window, which made that entrance dangerous to go through. Unfortunately, this survivor house was mostly underwhelming, so I just took the nightstick as my consolation prize and took another path towards the southern survivor house. This alternate path, however, would turn into a wise choice, as just down the road was a zombie with a large backpack. This backpack is largely considered to be the second best backpack in Vanilla Zomboid. There is also a storage warehouse and some storage units that might be worth looking into. Considering the in-game time, however, I wanted to secure a house with a TV to catch the next episode of Life and Living. Along the way, I managed to pick up a gun holster off of a police zombie, and thankfully this house didn't have an alarm. Instead, the owner of this place took a more direct approach and had a gun case containing a 9mm pistol that would come in handy later as long as I found more magazines for it. Considering there was still a little bit of time before Life and Living, I went to check out the surrounding area and somehow just barely avoided being bitten by who I'm guessing was the owner of the house. There wasn't anything too noteworthy in the houses nearby, so I just grabbed a tub of ice cream, and sat down to watch our favorite woodworking enthusiast who flexed so hard he broke his door. Afterwards, I backed the jeep through the metal gates leading into the storage lot in case I need to make a quick getaway and get to work clearing out the larger warehouse. While the warehouse proved to be a little underwhelming, I did at least find some more nails, an axe, some mechanic tools, and the best loot in my opinion was a radio that had the automated emergency broadcast frequency on its preset channels. On this randomly generated frequency, you'll receive hourly updates on upcoming weather, and if you're lucky enough to find it before the end of the first week on a regular game, it will also tell you if the infamous helicopter event is occurring. I then set my sights on the storage units just next door. Aside from finding a generator inside, the loot was also underwhelming here as well. I returned to that nearby house to catch exposure survival and update parts of my notebook. In this episode of Exposure Survival, Dean talks for a little bit about campfires, but seeing as it doesn't give me the dopamine-inducing green arrow, I decide to go further down the road towards the survivor house, clearing out anything that's trailing me down the road. I stopped by a church parking lot to quickly check a decent looking car and managed to get a bow tie off of a pastor before reaching the general area that the safe house is in. There were still a number of zombies here, but thankfully I managed to back up before too many of them noticed me. I whittled their numbers down, but unfortunately I was hit with the tiredness moodle and decided to head back home. I decided to take a shortcut back over the grass and through the trees and came across a police roadblock. These vehicles just might have guns and ammo in them, so I mark it on my map before heading home. I do the usual offloading of items, journal updates, and map updates before concluding day 4. Keeping in line with the previous episode, here's the new moodles that have popped up in this video. As we have yet to find a single trace of tobacco for Orville to smoke, he's not too happy about the lack of smoke breaks lately, and we're hit with the unhappiness moodle. While this is active, certain actions like inventory transfer and weapon swapping are slower. This can also be caused by eating stale food, high stress levels, certain traits like smoker, boredom, or you're turning into a zombie. Entertainment media, alcohol, cigarettes, good food, and antidepressants will take care of this moodle. In this episode, we had enough of a workout to introduce the hyperthermic moodle. This little coffee cup shows if you're particularly active, whether you're working out, fighting zombies, or maybe it's a sign you're overdressed for the weather. You'll tire out easier depending on just how hot your character gets. Dressing appropriately for the weather and taking it easy will prevent this one from becoming too much of a problem. Tied to hyperthermic, we got slapped with a wet moodle. In this case, it was Orville working up a sweat as he tries to naturally cool down his body. Other things that can cause this would be things like copious amounts of rain or snow. While normally inconsequential in the first 2 stages, the 3rd and 4th stage of these moodles can cause your character to catch a cold, and the winter months will amplify the cooling effect, making catching a cold at that point in the game more likely. To combat this, you can find dish towels and bath towels throughout the world to dry yourself off if things are getting that bad. While we were talking about workouts here, we managed to hit the exertion moodle when we got back from the survivor house with a shiny new axe to swing around. Also referred to as the stamina moodle, almost every action except walking and sitting down will put you closer to having this moodle show up. With every stage this is active, you'll deal less melee damage, and past the first stage you won't be able to jog. You can delay this by consuming ginseng that you can find through foraging, having a high fitness stat, and the use of lighter weapons. If you do find yourself exhausted, sitting on the ground, in a car, or resting on a piece of furniture will recover your stamina and get rid of the smoodle. While playing solo, this is also heavily tied to the fatigue stat that the tiredness moodle goes off of. Speaking of tiredness moodle, that's the next one on the list I want to cover. When this guy pops up, your weapon damage and stamina recovery take a dive with the later stages, almost completely inhibiting stamina regeneration. Your cone of vision will also become a lot more narrow, making dangerous situations even worse if you're caught in a bad spot. How long you sleep uninterrupted is determined by this moodle and varies depending on what traits you've picked. It should also be worth noting that your fitness level also affects the frequency that this moodle shows up, as it ties into the exertion moodle. Lastly, since we are not the star of the woodcraft show, the weight of the lumber near the end of day 2 brought us down to just low enough health to trigger the injured moodle's appearance. This is simply a quick indicator of your current amount of health. As this was more of the equivalent of feeling sore after moving something heavy around, we didn't feel any adverse effects. Any more than that, however, you'll start to lose your base carrying capacity the lower your health goes. If you're healthy otherwise, time will get rid of this moodle, as well as having a full stomach for that increased health regeneration. And that should be a wrap for episode 2 here. Apologies if I might have made the moodle section a little longer here, but these are some of the heavier deciding factors to take into consideration as you traverse Knox County. If you like this video, leave a like, comment, and consider subscribing. How would you have dealt with any of these situations today, namely the house alarms? Don't have to answer now or not at all if you don't want to. Much love, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hey, post-editing onion here again. I'd again like to apologize for the lack of animations near the end here. I'm going to be trying a whole bunch of different fixes for this video editing software I was using, or maybe even try a different one to bring you guys much more high quality content in the future. Speaking of content, I will be over at Twitch TV in a little bit here to stream Armored Core 6. I'm going to leave the link in the description below. And I'll hope to see you there, but if you don't want to hang out, that's totally fine too. Either way, much love to you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.